So good morning and welcome. My name is Reverend Dr. Ron Fox, and welcome to the Sunday service for the Center for Spiritual Space Coast. This would be a good time to turn off phones if you haven't done that. And if there's any, I know there's nobody here that hasn't been to a Center for Spiritual Living, but there may be some people who watch during the week. And we believe there's one God, many paths to that God, and we're here to love, honor, and support you, no matter what your divine path is. And the Center for Spiritual Living Space Coast is a safe haven for people of all beliefs and lifestyles, whoever you are and wherever you may find yourself on your journey of faith, you're welcome here. This morning, our practitioner is my wife, Becky Fox, and our reader is Barb Loftus. I know most of you come to church for the announcements, and I only have a few today. I'm really sorry. But just real quick, our book group is continuing to meet 2 o'clock on Tuesdays, and we just started a new book. And I have to tell you, it's the second time I've read it, and I loved it the first time. I am actually enjoying it even more this time. It's called Tuesdays with Mari, and there's lots of great lessons in that book about life and how to live life. The other really big announcement is this Friday, October 14th, is our Eddie Watkins Jr. concert. It's 7 o'clock this Friday. It's a fundraiser for both the Center for Spiritual Living and Unity of Melbourne, and the tickets are only $20, and we have tickets left. So please, today's the last Sunday to purchase, but we will have tickets on sale at the concert on Friday night. Just one last announcement. Next Sunday is unexpected income, so set the intention this week that unexpected income will come into your life. And then next week, you can share your story with us and share a little bit of your unexpected income.
And so as we begin the time of prayer, I invite each of us to just take this time for a few seconds of silence. And so from this place of silence, the stillness, we open up our hearts to this joyful occasion, to all the gratefulness, knowing that God is, I am, knowing and recognizing this wonderful divine power that is right here within each of us. And I'm knowing my oneness in this divine power, this essence of who and what I am. It is the love. And as we go into our hearts and let this gratefulness fill us up, we allow Spirit's love to overflow into our lives, into our community, into the universe, knowing that right here, right now, God is, I am. And knowing this, that in this place of love, that everything is unfolding as it should, as it is in divine perfection, that no matter what is in the appearance out there, that right here within each and every one of us is Spirit, is the truth. And knowing this, knowing how life is unfolding in divine perfection, we remove any kind of obstacles that stand in our way of observing and seeing this truth of God. And so knowing this, I'm knowing that this morning is unfolding in divine perfection. It is of God. And I'm knowing that Reverend Dr. Ron is this divine perfection, divine expression of spirit and of spirit's message. That he too is one in God, one in divine perfection of expressing its truth. So it's no accident that each one of us is here right in this place, knowing that we open up our hearts in gratitude and in love to accept this message this morning and to allow it to be an expression of who we are. So knowing this, I'm knowing that everything is moving in God's accord, in God's perfection. And so I release this into the universe, knowing that it is already done. I claim it to be so. And so it is.
Good morning, everybody. When I was in high school, there was only one college I wanted to attend, Clemson. I took advanced placement classes, studied hard, scored high on my SATs to prepare. It was the only college I applied to, and I was accepted early. When I started work and learned how tedious it was to work for a company for someone else all day, I decided to do all I could to become financially independent so I could retire early. I was able to start my own consulting business when I was 50 because I did not have the pressure to make a certain income on account of my financial stability. I gave up impulsive spending for nearly 30 years to achieve this. I never wanted children, and I don't have them. I wanted to write a novel, and I've written 2 so far. I wanted to travel the world and visit all the continents. I have 2 to go, and in March I'll have 1. I can say that I've lived my life mostly on my own terms, and I don't regret it. It's a tremendous responsibility, though. For every plan and goal, there are opportunity costs. What might have happened instead if I hadn't been so laser focused on my objectives? Could it have been even better? As I said, I don't regret that I owned my life, my choices, and the results. But as I've aged, I've learned a secret. It's more important to live consciously and with clear intent than to be attached to specific details. For example, I intend to be financially secure, but I don't worry about whether it comes to earned income, investments, or winning the lottery. I intend to be a good friend and to have good friends, but I don't insist any particular person be my friend. I intend to be creative, but I'm not concerned what form the creativity takes. Does that mean I wish I had let life just happen? No. I'm saying that clear intention is more important than specific details. This allows for something even better to happen that's aligned with those intentions.
That's great. Wow, that's terrific. Thank you. You know what we call that? I wasn't going to obviously talk about this, but I will. What we call that in religious science is outlining. And we say, you know, when we do a prayer, we just open to the prayer for this or something better. And we trust that we don't have to tell God how to do it because God knows better than we do. So thank you. So my title today is Living by Design or Default, in case you hadn't gotten that. And I want to begin with the quote from Thich Nhat Hanh, who said, at any moment you have a choice that either leads you closer to your spirit or further away from it. And that's kind of the theme, my theme for this morning. And so Ernest Holmes, the founder of Centers for Spiritual Living, said, if you absolutely believe that you can do something, a way will be opened for you to do it. Why? Because he also tells us that our belief sets the limit to our demonstration. So it's not about, obviously, I think, about God's ability to do it or God's willingness to do it. It's simply a matter of our receptivity. And that's why we say in New Thought that our prayers don't move God. Our prayers move the person doing the praying. It puts us in a receptive state. In other words, it puts us in a state where we're open to the gifts of God. We could think of our thoughts as seeds, and whatever seeds we put out into the universe, that's what we're going to reap. I think Bob Proctor put it really well. He simply said, "You are a magnet. You are a magnet." And when we develop new ways of thinking and new beliefs, we change what life is giving us. So I want to tell you a story. I think I got this story from Alan Cohen. I'm pretty sure I did. And I really resonate with this because Alan Cohen lives in Maui. And Becky and I used to have a timeshare in Maui. And the restaurant that I'm going to tell you about, I'm positive we went to a few times because I've never seen another place like this. When you walk in to this restaurant, they have 4 or 5 absolutely gorgeous parrots. And they must have had their wings clipped because they're all standing there together. And one is more beautiful than the other, but they also have kind of a barrier. So you can't go right up and touch them. And so evidently Alan Cohen was in there one day when somebody did do that. The person, a man, went up close to the parrots because it's hard to resist them. And evidently the manager of the restaurant came running over to him and said, "Sir, please step back. They bite, and one of them could really hurt you." So the guy does what the manager says. He moves back, but he's still looking at them. And about 2 minutes later, one of the servers comes up, a woman, and she goes right up to one of the parrots, starts to pet it, and kisses it on the beak, and turns to this guy and says, "Isn't he a lover?" And the question is, which is the truth? Are they mean and biting, or are they a lover? What's the truth? And the answer is, the truth is whatever you make it. It's whatever you make it. And that's true in life too, or truth in life is what we make it. So I have a little exercise, and I know there's not a ton of you here, but I thought I'd throw out a question and see if we could get anybody to share. So think of, and I'm not asking you to give me all 3, but think of 2 or 3 things that you thought you could never do that you've done. Okay? We're talking about what your truth is. So at some point, your truth was you thought you could never do it, but now you've done it. Now, I have to say, I did on the way in tell Becky what the question was. So go ahead.
Okay, so there's 2 that kind of relate to one another. Being an introvert, I find it very difficult to get in front of a large group of people, especially strangers. So the first one was when I did a presentation of a workshop in front of a business organization in Brevard County. And I did it twice. The first time was, I didn't think it was as successful. The second time when I did it at another location, I really understood, where my, quote unquote, weak spots were. And the second one was more of a successful workshop. The second time was when we went to Asilomar, which is CSL's retreat several years ago in Pacific Grove, California. And you asked me to do your opening
I was doing the main talk.
Yeah.
And before you do the talk, a practitioner does a prayer. And this is in front of 800 or 1,000 people.
Yeah, so the second time that you had asked me, I said yes. The first time, the year before, I didn't want to do it. But the second time, I thought, yeah, you know what? I think I feel like I'm ready for that. So, yeah, that was the second time.
Thank you.
I-
Somebody else had there, did you, Ed,
Yeah, mine's similar. When I was a teenager, I was incredibly shy. We talked about introvert. And, I managed to get through both one-on-one and in a crowd. I mean, my job as a research engineer required me occasionally to get up on a stage in front of the nation's experts in that field and give a presentation and talk about nerves. I mean, but after I did it a few times, the butterflies went away and I had fun.
Hmm.
So, I can talk in front of groups, I can talk one-on-one. And when I was a teenager, man, that was impossible.
Jen?
So, I always had a fear of putting my head underwater and being claustrophobic. And I learned to scuba dive,
Oh,
and that was a challenge, but, you go through the class. And the last day of the class, you have to pass all these tests. And when I passed all the tests, everybody celebrated because they knew how hard it was. And I had a blast
Oh, wow.
scuba diving, but that was a challenge.
Oh, Barb.
Yeah, I did the Arctic plunge in that freezing ocean water, and I didn't want to do it, but my friend and I had made a pact that if they did it on the trip we were on, that we would do it together. And we thought we were gonna get away with not having to, but on the last day of the trip, the conditions were good and we were able, they did it. And I thought, oh, gosh, I don't really want to do this. And it was fun. Now I know why people do it. I don't know what there is that goes on in your brain when you jump into 27-degree water, but it was really an awesome experience. I would do it again.
Wow. Oh, thank you all for sharing. So, an author that I read said that we should live our lives like a work of art. And I thought, I get what he means. Because a work of art, there's only one of them, there's only one Sistine Chapel, there's only one Mona Lisa. And what he was saying is our lives are meant to be lived uniquely, that each one of us is unique and each one of us has some kind of a gift to offer. And, we're not all going to be the president or whatever, but we all have a gift that we can give in our life. And I read that somebody once asked Mozart, why do you compose? And his answer was, because I have to. And I was wondering, I'm not going to ask you to share, what is it in your life that you absolutely have to do? What is it in your life that really excites you? What is it in your life that brings you great joy? And I'll come back, I think, to that. I want to read you a quote from Ernest Holmes. Ernest Holmes said that life is for today. There'll be no change for tomorrow unless we do the changing today, because we're setting in motion, the power of tomorrow. And what is that power? It's consciousness. Consciousness sets the limits in our life. Our life, I'm sure you all know this, is lived from the inside out. It's not what happens out here, but it's really what happens in here that determines what our life is going to look like. And Joel Goldsmith, one of great spiritual writers, put it really succinctly. He said, every issue of life is determined not by external conditions or things, but by consciousness. So Barbara DeAngelis, in one of her books, said there's nothing missing inside of us. And we don't suffer because of what we don't have or because of who we aren't. We suffer because we forget. We forget who we really are and what we really have. And she said transformation isn't a search for something, it's a return to what you are. And it made me think, Meister Eckhart said something very similar. He said that spiritual life, this isn't a quote, but he said spiritual life isn't about addition, it's about subtracting something. And I think, one way to look at it, think of your soul as a window. And as we go through life, with relationships and work and all the other stuff that life does, it gets dirty. And a spiritual practice, what a spiritual practice does is it kind of subtracts the dirt and the grime and brings us back to where we were originally. I'm not going to go through this whole story, but there's a story about a newlywed couple that moves into a house, and every day when they're having breakfast, they look out the window and their neighbors got their wash on a rope outside drying. And the bride says to the groom, she needs to use better detergent. Look how dirty her clothes are. And one day she comes down to breakfast and the clothes are bright and clean. And she says to her husband, she must have changed the soap she's using. And he said, no, I got up early today and washed our windows. So I want to tell you a story about a young boy. I've told this a few years ago, whose hobby is flying a kite. And every day he's out there and he's really proficient at it. And one day he's out and he's flying this kite and it's so high up, it's actually above the clouds. And an older man comes up to him and says, what are you doing? And he says, I'm flying a kite, sir. And the old man says, I don't see a kite. I just see a rope. How do you know that the kite is up there? And he says, sir, I can feel the tug. I can feel the tug, sir. That tug for us is our intuition. It's that still small voice that pushes us to be everything that we can be. So, I asked the question, what would you do if you followed your heart? What would you do if you followed your heart? We just heard somebody read about what they would do, following their heart. And a couple of questions we could ask ourselves is to find that out. What is right for me? And another one is, where am I willing to be led? Where am I willing to be led? So I want to tell you a fable, and I thought this was really interesting because I read it in a book written by a rabbi, and it's a fable about Jesus. So here's the fable. A 4-year-old boy dies and goes to heaven, and he becomes an angel, and he's still kind of the little boy getting into trouble like he did when he was on earth. And then one day it's announced that Jesus is going to be born. And everybody, all the angels are going to come and give Jesus a gift. Well, this little 4-year-old boy can't figure out what it is that he should give Jesus. So he gives him his toy box. And inside the toy box is his dog's collar from when he was on earth, a pebble he found in a creek, and a feather. So what he did, he gave Jesus everything that, well, not everything, but things that he had saved from when he was on earth. And he looks around and all the other people gave Jesus fantastic gifts, and he gave this little thing, and he starts to cry because he thinks his gift is inadequate. But God loves it. And God says to everybody, this is my favorite gift. And he takes the little boy's gift and he turns it into the Star of Bethlehem. The point of the story of the fable is that the only gift that we need to give God is our deepest selves. And we do that when we live as our truest selves, as our divine self. And actually, the Buddha put it really clearly too, when he was on his deathbed and his disciples were really fearful, what are we going to do without you? This is what it said, he said to them, be lamps unto yourselves, be your own confidence, hold on to the truth within yourselves as the only truth. So I want to touch one more point before I close. And I read an article by a fellow named Chuck Galozzi this week. And he said, if you expect nothing, you get nothing. And he said, it's one great way to avoid disappointment is to expect nothing. But he also said, when you do that, you pay a really steep price because there's so much wonder in the universe and so many wonderful things that could come to anybody that's got the right attitude. And he said, those who expect good look for good, and those who look for good find it. So expect much good and look for it. And remember that you and I are the creators of our reality. As Ernest Holmes put it, he said, you are the center of power in your life. So I want to close with something. I know I've read this before, but not in a while. And it's just so powerful and fits so well what I was speaking about this morning. And it's a book by Oriah Mountain Dreamer, and it's titled The Call. And this is the poem that she opened the book with. And it's titled, guess what? The Call. I have heard it all my life, a voice calling, a name I recognized as my own. Sometimes it comes as a soft-bellied whisper. Sometimes it holds an edge of urgency. But always it says, wake up, my love, you're walking asleep. There's no safety in that. Remember what you are, and let this knowing take you home to the beloved with every breath. Hold tenderly who you are, and let a deeper knowing color the shape of your humanness. There's nowhere to go. What you're looking for is right here. Open the fist clenched and wanting, and see you already hold it in your hand. There's no waiting for something to happen, no point in the future to go to. All you have ever longed for is here in this moment, right now. You're wearing yourself out with all this searching. Come home and rest. I'm going to end it there. Come home and rest. Thank you for being here. God bless you. Have a great week. I could never do and did. And it was going to be kind of the same as what Ed and Becky did about public speaking. But I actually have a different one too. I don't have a good singing voice, okay? And years ago, I attended a workshop that started on Friday night and went all day Saturday and all day Sunday. And right at the start on Friday night, the facilitator said, people think that speaking in public is the scariest thing, but they're wrong. It's not speaking in public, it's singing in public. Who's going to get up here and sing a song? And I have this thing, when I pay for a workshop, I do all this stuff. And so I was really nervous, but I got up and I knew I'd be nervous, and I could think of only one song that I could do that I would remember all the words to. So I got up in front of this whole group and I sang, "Take Me Out to the Ball Game." And I didn't die. So anyway, our usher can come forward. This is like, I tell you this every week, 4 years of ministry school to get to be able to do this. And if the rest of us could just repeat with me the prosperity affirmation in the bulletin. I live in a consciousness of good, divine love, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God. It is so good to see you back. And that I loved what that reading that you did. It's so human. So if we could come together again for a moment and just know that there is one life, and that life is God, and that life is always with each and every one of us every moment. And because that God is with us each and every moment, we can live a life that we choose to live. We can listen to that still small voice, to that intuition that's pushing us to be the best that we can be, to give the gift that we were born to give, and know that when we're doing that, we are giving God all it needs. We're giving God the toy box that we were born with, like the little 4-year-old, or like the kite flyer. We're hearing the voice, we're feeling the tug. And when we feel the tug and we listen to what the voice and the tug is telling us, we can live a charmed life, a life that's spiritual, a life that's good, and a life that contributes to wherever it is we are. And so for all of this and so much more, I just give thanks and I release it and I let it be. And so it is. So we're going to do, if we can stand and do our closing song, with the words will be up there. And then we'll do our closing affirmation together. The words will be there, right? Yep. We've been doing,
And here we go. A beautiful song about being peace on earth.
I could sing it to the mic and show you how bad I sing, but I won't. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be, with God as creator, family all are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my joyous vow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. So if we could do our closing affirmation, something wonderful is happening to me right now. Something wonderful is happening to me right now. It is this thing called life. It is this thing called life. Life is in my mind. Life is in my mind. Life is in my body. Life is in my body. Life is in my affairs. Life is in my affairs. I receive it. I receive it. I share it. I share it. I am it. I am it. And I accept it. And I accept it. Just the way that it is. Just the way that it is. And just the way that it is not. And just the way that it is not. Thank you, life. Thank you, life. And so it is. So it is. So we're going to do our after